Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be taking a short break from the Why No One / Everyone Play series just so I don't burn through all the characters and can make it last a while. Don't worry, there's still plenty more to go through like Pichu, Mewtwo, Meta Knight Villager and whatnot, so you can look forward to them later this year and next year. For this week and next week though, as suggested by my good buddy and editor Chains, I'm going to be discussing the top 5 characters in Smash Ultimate who got buffed the most from version 1 to now. I repeat, version 1 to now, as in I'm not talking about who got buffed the most from Smash 4 to Smash Ultimate because I feel like that's already been documented rather extensively. Then again, there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion over who received the most improvements through balance updates. Next week we'll be doing the same thing but for the opposite, which characters were nerfed the most. I should mention that I'll be paying more attention to the impact and significance of the changes instead of the sheer quantity. Some characters may have received a substantial number of buffs and nerfs, but it may not have influenced their viability in tournaments by enough to be considered, while others have received only a single patch's worth of buffs, but that was enough to elevate them from questionable mid-tier status to definitively high tier, and thus a legitimate contender. So without further ado, let's begin. First, I like to go through a couple of honorable mentions, 2 characters who are in a far better standing now than they were before, even if it's not being reflected as visibly in tournament results, not yet anyway. One of which is Corrin. As a respectable high tier in their debut entry of Smash 4, Corrin was greatly nerfed during Ultimate's release. The utility and potency of their specials, a core aspect of their gameplay, sustained a noticeable decrease in power and/or effectiveness. Couple this with changes to Ultimate's engine from Smash 4 speeding up the game to favor momentum and optimizing your advantage state, and Corrin went from one of the best sword fighters in the game to one of the worst. Fortunately, many of these nerfs were alleviated, namely on the aforementioned specials. Alongside this, they received a slight numbers adjustment on their normals, giving them better efficiency in combat such as forward, back, and up air, all gaining more damage. These updates were meaningful enough for them to witness a reasonable degree of success. Currently, Shattuck is their main rep and has been performing quite well during the past year, and there was even fringe usage of Corrin by Leo whenever possible. The other honorable mention goes to Little Mac, a character who by all accounts is firmly placed at the bottom 5 of most people's tier list. Despite his very obvious glaring flaws, Mac has been seeing actual tournament results recently, at least in the US. While the laundry list of improvements in version 3.1 were needed, 13.0 brought in a few more, notably to his utility and pressure game. As a result, Little Mac has been slowly but surely gaining more traction by users like Peanut, who always had a loyal cult following, but it's starting to become even more conceivable that Little Mac isn't as much of a joke as everyone believes him to be. There still isn't enough empirical data to draw a firm conclusion on the limits of his potential, but at the very least he's caught the attention of Peachy Stats, who went as far as to make a dedicated piece on him. Anyways, that's going to be it for the HMs. Now let's go through the list of characters who in my and Chains' opinion were buffed the most relative to the cast. At number 5 we have Bayonetta. Having made a Why No One Plays episode on her, you might be confused as to why she's on this list, but considering how almost unusable she was at the start of Ultimate after being brutalized with nerfs, it's incredible to see her return to competition in the past year. Players like Bloom Forever, Mistake, and Lima have become national threats in their respective regions, gradually increasing in presence, and I believe that was only possible thanks to her buffs. Patch 3.1 oversaw a lot of quality of life changes, especially to her normals and specials alike. 8.0 continued this by making her setups like up tilt and side B more usable, and in version 12.0 they gave her a non-combo based kill move through her jab, to where it can now close the stocks beginning at the 115 mark if you're standing at the ledge. This way she can secure kills without having to go through a string of combos or fish for back air. The main issue surrounding her performance in the early days of Ultimate, or lack thereof, was that her margin for error was narrowed down to such an unforgiving extent that you would garner twice the amount of results for your efforts on any other character than you did on Bayo, since there were too many things that can go wrong over the course of a game. To be fair, in Smash 4 she was too forgiving. Her gear was so overloaded and overtuned that the rest of the competition had to work twice as hard to beat her than she had to beat them. All the same, they were unreasonably cruel to her, so the buffs aimed to decrease her execution intensity, bigger hitboxes, lower SDI multiplier, faster frame data, etc. It's nowhere near how good she was in her prime, but at this point most if not all top players believe she's regained enough of what she lost to be regarded as a mid to high tier character, and the results definitely show. Bayonetta has always had the means to find success even after her fall from grace entering Ultimate. Like Corrin, she just needs to have a few of her nerfs compensated for. Now I don't know if this is purely anecdotal, but it feels like every major region has that one Bayonetta player who just smokes everyone at locals. I don't know why, but it just seems to be. Coming in at number 4 we have the edgy swordy himself, Cloud. Unlike other top placing Smash 4 veterans, Cloud's nerfs were more on the mild side. The brokenness of his attacks like neutral, up and down air were made less so, and he lost the crucial property of being able to maintain limit for as long as he wanted to. In return though, his space specials were made a lot more usable, namely Climb Hazard and Blade Beam. Even so, Cloud's top tier status was dragged down into mid tier. He wasn't bad per se, but the consensus was that you had a better chance playing Roy, Shulk, Ike, or Lucina, who received improvements coming into Ultimate. Since Cloud wasn't nerfed as hard, it didn't take a lot of buffs for him to return to form either, and thankfully version 7.0 brought them in. 4 changes, but each of them addressed a major issue that prevented him from consistently performing well. First, dash attack's kill power was increased, while up smash's kill power and frame data was improved as well, adding 2 very powerful kill options in his repertoire so that he didn't have to bank on using a limit special to finish the job, especially given that he couldn't hold on to limit forever anymore. Next, Climb has a sweet spot the ledge 4 frames earlier. It may not seem like a lot, but it was enough to make it so Cloud is almost as hard to 2-frame as most other characters with an upward ascent recovery, making him less susceptible to being gimped. Finally, manually charging limit from 0 to 100% took 1 full second less. So while he couldn't hold on to limit indefinitely anymore, he could get more uses of it per stock for specials. Then of course there was also a buff to finishing touch to make it a little bit faster, but that's still considered more of a niche thing. It took effectively only 1 patch of buffs for players to start placing him in top 10 to 15, whereas before he was squarely in the 20 to 30th mark. Granted, it wasn't just those buffs that elevated his status. In my Why Everyone Plays episode on Cloud, I talked about how changes in the meta were favorable to him as he just so happened to have a positive matchup against most of the characters everyone disliked fighting. But regardless, thanks to performances from Spargo, Cola, Enhanced PV, Nico, Yoshi, and more representation of him in mid-level play, Cloud might return to being a staple sight at majors. At number 3, we have Jigglypuff. Puff's tournament results don't climb as high as the former 2, but I want to remind you that we're looking at how far they improved from the beginning of Ultimate to now. They don't necessarily have to take spots in majors, for example. Anyways, ever since Melee, Jigglypuff has historically been a bottom tier character. Brawl Smash 4 made her one of the worst in the game, and it felt like Ultimate would initially continue that trend. But thanks to quality of life buffs in versions 2, 6, and 13, Jigglypuff's decent moveset has been made way more effective, going from a bottom 10 character to a solid mid tier at worst. And her very aerial focused edge guarding nature makes her a matchup check nightmare for characters who struggle to recover from Wall of Paints. 2.0 started with adjustments to her frame data, damage, and kill power. Most notably her back air, one of her primary kill moves was made faster, and her forward throw sent opponents at a very disadvantageous angle. 6.0 pushed this even further by making her down air auto cancel from a short hop if buffered immediately, allowing her to perform those down air strings you see every so often. Forward throw's launch angle was made even more horizontal, thus allowing her to edge guard and tech chase with 0 effort, and pound game more combo potential and shield pressure. 13.0 finished things off with back air having less ending and landing lag. This allowed it to become -3 on shield, or in other words, it's virtually unpunishable now, and down throw gains some more utility. What Jigglypuff needed was a way to set up edge guard and tech chase scenarios, as her 2 main ways of killing you were either dragging you across the stage to where you get perma edge guarded, or setting you up for rest. The increased speed of back air and the greater utility of forward throw did exactly that. It still doesn't diminish how poorly she handles projectiles and disjoints, but at the very least, she's tournament viable. Base Mage is our premier operator, and Hungrybox has been steadily improving in tournaments, placing 25th at Riptide 2022 and 17th at Lost Tech City. Not gonna lie, it's pretty refreshing to see Jigglypuff get a second chance in competitive after having almost none in Brawl and 4. The second place spot goes to Captain Falcon. Falcon was another fighter who was in a pretty good spot in Smash 4 thanks to his disgustingly good dash grab and up air strings.
Right there. The infinite knee! Dude!
That meant during the transition to Ultimate he would get nerfed in a lot of different ways through adjustments to his own kit as well as universal nerfs to mechanics like grab, something he really depended on. Mind you, Falcon did receive some noteworthy buffs like his specials. Falcon Kick was turned into a solid KO move and landing option in the right conditions. Falcon Dive became an excellent added shield option, and he received far more increased skill power across the board. The hard part is that he didn't really have easy ways to lead into any of them, though version updates would change that. Beginning in patch 3.1, like everyone else, quality of life adjustments were given to him. The moves that killed were made easier to kill with, such as forward air, back air, and down B, while the rest were given more utility. For example, Raptor Boost is now one of, if not his best combo setup. 8.0 would add even more benefits to Raptor Boost and Falcon Kick. It would combo more reliably at a wider percent range, and sometimes even a side B into knee would be possible. Meanwhile, Falcon Kick became even deadlier on Sweet Spot. Dash attack gained more combo potential and safety on shield, which I'm sure Falcon mains appreciate a lot now that dash grab isn't as effective anymore. And then, up smash was made into one of the best up smashes in the game if we go by sheer force and damage. Oh, and you can't tech check Falcon's up B as easily anymore as of 11.0. I like to think Falcon received the same treatments as Cloud, where they wanted to bring it back to meta relevance, but not in the same way as they were in Smash 4, and it worked. Players like Fatality, Sean, and Andric are doing far better now than prior to online. If memory serves, Falcon's placement in the final official tier list of Smash 4 was 19th place, and if I were to think of a good place to put Falcon, I would say he still chills more or less around at the same spot, for different reasons of course. Always a pleasure to see him in tournaments. And at number 1, I actually have 2 people sharing the spot because they're Echo Fighters, even if they were made stronger in diverging ways. The most bugged characters in Smash Ultimate from version 1 to now would arguably have to go to Ryu and Ken. Not only did they have the most significant improvements in terms of competitive success, but they also straight up received the most number of buffs out of any character period. As in, I can't fit all of them into one screenshot, that's how many they got. Ryu and Ken were definitively bad entering Ultimate, following the nerfs to Ryu after his breakout performance in 4 just like the others on this list. It's hard to really summarize what was made worse in Ryu's kit with how everything seems to have been made better, but in short, he and by extension Ken were the only ones whose physics were not changed whatsoever, even though everyone else has been made faster in some way, shape, or form. Furthermore, the use of auto turnaround, widely considered broken now, was actually viewed by many as detrimental since it made using back air, one of their best kill options, far more difficult to pull off. Ryu's main kill move, Shoryuken, lost a lot of its safety, including its ability to snap the ledge early, while its main setup move, Focus Attack, was also less effective. Many of the nerfs to Ryu would lay the foundation for Ken's base kit. Fortunately, they would have a lot of this taken care of in versions 3 and 7, most notably 3. I honestly can't be bothered to go through each one because there's so many, but in TLDR fashion, Ryu and Ken were adjusted to make their strengths more accessible. Ryu's win condition, being more focused around neutral and whiff punishes, was made more effective thanks to the buffs to Hadouken in version 3, 7, 11, and 12, while Tatsumaki has been made a stronger kill option off down tilt. Ken's aggressive combo game and damage tracking was made even better too, while his Shoryuken, being his main finisher, kills faster. Oh, and a noteworthy change to mention would be their ability to cancel down smash into other attacks, dealing a ton of damage off a single parry. Ryu and Ken have both found resounding success in the past year and change. Even though I find Ryu to be more consistent than his friend, we can't discredit either of their tournament results in 2021 and 2022. Having started as both low to mid tiers, they now place firmly in high tier, give or take around the same neighborhood as Captain Falcon, with no shortage of representation despite the growing prevalence of Terry and Kazuya in the meta. Alrighty, that's it for the list. If you feel like there were others who deserve to be on it more, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm actually interested in knowing how many of you agree or disagree. There are a lot of other characters who could have been honorable mentions like Ridley, Incineroar, and whatnot, but in fairness, Ultimate's approach to balance revolved more around buffing underperformers instead of nerfing overperformers, which I'm personally a fan of as I feel like it's always healthier for the game to bridge the gap from the bottom instead of the top. That being said, I plan to cover the 5 most nerfed characters next week, so if you enjoyed today's video and are looking forward to that one, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at VarsFam, join my Discord server, and if you'd like to support me further, check out my Patreon. By donating, you get access to benefits for all 3 of my channels, Vars, Vars2, and Vars3. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.